Welcome to Gumball Love. I'm Melissa Ledger, professional relationship coach, creator of Gumball Love and the Back to You Academy. If you're ready to stop the cycle of toxic men, get through the breakup once and for all, and finally get back to you, you are in the right place. This journey is about healing your heart, and you are encouraged to take the pace that is just right for you. In the process, you will build a foundation of confidence and strength that will make you unshakable, I promise. So get ready to level up your mindset and your lifestyle as you awaken the seeds of greatness just waiting to burst into full bloom. Let's do this. Welcome back to another episode of Gumball Love. I'm your host, Melissa Ledger. All right, today I have a special guest. This is Keyara. She was willing to sit in the hot seat and get her coaching session live on the podcast. She experienced the question of, did I just get ghosted or what happened? There's so many situations out there that are complicated and you're sitting there wondering, was I too much? What happened? Why was he so intense and then he pulled away? And could I have done something differently? Or was this person just really not meant for me? And even if they're not meant for you, it hurts in that moment. So hats off to Keyara, who was such a trooper. We had many technical difficulties and she stuck with me and we got this episode recorded. So thank you in advance to my producer, Dana Drahos, who is amazing and will, I know, make this sound beautiful. I can't wait for you to hear about Keyara's story. And if you would like to be coached in the hot seat, if you want to share your story anonymously, we're only going to give her first name. And I believe we made up a fake name for the guy. We may have gotten away with not saying his name at all. But if you want to be completely anonymous and you want to share your story, please shoot me an email and give me the highlights. Just say, okay, Melissa, here's my story. I'm this old. I've been dating this guy for this long. Like say I'm 36 and I was married before and I was married at 23 and I got divorced at 34. I've been single for 2 years. I met this guy online. Gives me perspective of where you are in life. Were you married before? Have you never been married? Do you have children? Does he have children? Just kind of give me the overall scoop so I can kind of see, oh, okay, so you're new to the dating scene or you've been online dating for a long time or you got ghosted or whatever the situation is. Just kind of give me where you are, what you do, how you guys met, and just so I can get a good picture of the story. And then we will select them to be aired on the podcast, and I will make a call to you. We'll chat on Zoom just like we would do on a coaching call, but everyone else will get to hear your story. So the good part is it's free. The bad part is everyone's going to hear it. However, we keep it anonymous. So I'm so excited for you to meet Keyara and hear her story. I want to hear your feedback. I want to know what's going through your mind. So please email me, melissa@gumballlove.com, or give me a comment in my most recent Instagram post. All right, without further ado, here is Keyara. Okay, so Keyara, you were listening to Gumball Love podcast for how long?
I was listening for about a month.
Okay. Do you remember which episode's the most recent, or how did you come across it?
No, so usually when I'm on Spotify, I always love to listen to like self-help podcasts that kind of just like resonate with me, or I feel like will just be helpful for myself. And I was just like researching different self-help tips and I came across yours and I thought your name was interesting, like Gumball Love. And I was like, what is that? Because I feel like adult women don't eat gumballs. So I was like curious about the name. So then I clicked in and I feel like I can't recall the first episode I listened to, but the one that I most recently listened to was, I think it's titled What Happens When He Ghosts You or something. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, did I just get ghosted? But I'm like, no, ghosting works differently. And I was just in this sense of really trying to figure out where I was in the current situation I'm like, I guess, in and leaving out of. So it just prompted me to contact you.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, because this takes a lot of courage to tell your story on air with everyone listening. But I know it's such a warm audience, and all my girls are just amazing. Every time I work with clients, I'm always just,
Aw.
I feel so like warm and cozy. It's like a sisterhood. Any client I work with, I mean, we were laughing in the first 5 minutes. I don't know what it is, but it's just like, if we're meant to be in the same sphere or the same place and time, it's just meant to be. So it's so fun to meet you and hear your story. So you had sent me a little bit of background. So you dated a guy for about a month and a half, right? And everything seemed great. He did all the right things. He seemed all lovey-dovey. And then tell me where you felt like things started to shift.
I feel
like how many good dates before something happened, or was there a red flag you saw, or were any red flags as you think back and go, okay, even though things were great, was there something that was off to you in some way?
Yeah. So in regards to red flag, I felt like this man cannot communicate, or this man doesn't feel comfortable communicating with me, is something that I like kind of flagged in my head, and that we discussed it. And like ever since that conversation, he kind of was very communicative. But what happened, what kind of like made everything really start to tumble and fall apart, was that I went through like a really horrible flight experience. So I like spent basically 24 hours of no sleep, 5 different airports. Hotel that I was supposed to be booked into was overbooked. So I had to book my own hotel. Like, it was just a horrible mess. And this was all for my birthday. So it was like days before my birthday.
This was the end of your relationship though, right?
Yeah.
This was at the very end. Okay. So you had like a great courtship, just so everyone understands the timeline. So it's like a month and a half in, you guys have gone on great dates. You had established that you were exclusive, right? And he was all on the same page. And then all of a sudden you're headed to Greece. How long were you going to be in Greece?
For about 8 days.
Okay. So he knew you were going on vacation for 8 days. Then you ended up not being able to get out of the country.
Yes.
24 hours being awake. You're finally in the hotel. And okay. So I just want to give everybody a little bit of perspective around timing. Okay. So continue. So you're at the hotel and you're texting, and what happened to give you like that feeling of something's off?
So I have very strong intuition in general, and I'm very proud of that. But so I had like ended up having 2 panic attacks. So I had one trying to board the flight again, and I couldn't do it, which what prompted me to end up in a hotel. But yeah, so as I was texting him the next morning, and he was asking me like, how are you? Like, where did you end up? Like, tell me what's going on. It just didn't feel like, you know how you just didn't, it just, the sense just feels off. Like, it just felt off. And I was just like, you know what? Are you uncomfortable? Like, was this too heavy for you? I just straight out asked, like flat out asked him. I said, I'm sorry, like, if this is too heavy for you. He said, I'm sorry, all this is happening to you. And because of his response, it made me think, okay, you did not deny that this was too heavy for you. You know, you can deflect it and like really tried to like, quote unquote, dote on me to make sure I was fine. But I'm like, you don't seem fine.
So what you were it was just a fear of flying? Is that like what you were getting over, or was it
there was a broken fuel pump issue? Okay. And that scared me, because the pilot was like, yeah, we have extras, we can fly without it. And I'm like, excuse me?
Like, is this like Friends where something's wrong with the right phalange? Like, wait a minute, what's going on?
What? And I don't know if I heard that pilot correctly or not, but I know a lot of people gasped. So I'm like, I think I heard him correctly. And I think I was just overwhelmed with like, I being up for 24 hours, having so many different airports I had to go to because like COVID, and you know, them working those things out. It was just too much happening. And I was just like exhausted.
So you were texting him as you were going through these ups and downs, airports, and you felt like it was overwhelming to him because you were expressing the emotional piece, the anxiety, the panic, all of those things.
Yeah. So I felt like he was inquiring, like, how are you? What's going on? Like, seeming like he wanted to know what was happening. So I was answering the questions. And I was like, as I was answering those questions, I hadn't yet had a panic attack. I was just like, you know what? I feel like I can't get to Greece. Like, this is the second time I feel like something is keeping me from Greece. And I just told him that. And he's like, I'm sorry, that sucks. Like, what's happening? And I was just telling him. And then I went to reboard like a few hours later, and I just had a panic attack. And I was like, I never responded to his message. And then I said, like, hey, like, I actually just had a panic attack. So I don't think I'm actually going to be going to Greece. Mm-hmm. And that's it. That's kind of like where it started going downhill, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So just as a spoiler alert for people that are listening, you actually took the quiz that is in beta version right now, will be available hopefully in the next month. I'm hoping to release it in 2022 or prior. So when you took the quiz, rarely do the results come up this clear, but you had results of 80%. I just wanted to see your 80% arouse me, Gumball Guy, 20% chase me. And I wanted to just hear from you how that resonated, because for those that aren't as familiar with Gumball Love is about a transactional relationship. People put a quarter in, they get a gumball. And so it represents the transactional nature of relationships, where when people put a quarter in and they turn it, the gumball, each gumball represents a different flavor of attention. So the red represents sex and arousal. So some people are in relationships for the transaction of, I'm going to put a quarter in so I can get sex and all the excitement that comes with it, the chemistry, the flirtation, the hormones and pheromones and all of the things. It can be, we all know it's when you have that kind of attraction with someone, it's very supercharged. But combined with that feeling of chasing, so it's like I have all the sexual chemistry, yet now I'm just, based on what I'm hearing, and for the audience, I only know about this piece because we text. I don't like to know too much beforehand, but as we were texting and just as you were telling the story, so when I see arouse me and then I see chase me, so it's an element of we have chemistry, everything's amazing, you're doing all the right things, yet I feel like I have to still chase you. So when you took the quiz and the results came up, first arouse me, Gumball Guy, then chase me, Gumball Guy. Mm-hmm. And because we had talked about how this connection, and sexual connection, the chemistry, everything was off the charts, right?
Right.
Okay. Can you give us a window into what that was like? I mean, when you first met, was it like, oh my God, this guy is... Did you feel like when I met my guy and I floated into the ceiling and my pupils dilated where I thought my eyes were black?
No. So we were talking on Bumble. And then he was just basically like, hey, like, you seem nice. Like, would you like to chat offline? I said, yes. And eventually we kind of like said, let's meet. So we met at like this cute bar. And, typically guys, like, either they look like their picture, look better than their picture, or is it just a lie? Mm-hmm. So I was like, we're going to see, because he's kind of, he's a streamer. So I'm like, he's nerdy. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah.
So he walks out of the bar and I'm like, oh my God, he's adorable. I thought he was so cute. Mm-hmm. So I was just happy that he was actually attractive.
So on the online dating standards, you're like, okay, he's attractive. He's like not somebody that I want to like figure out an exit plan immediately.
And we had good banter. Like, it was just, we had a lot of fun. And that's something that I really appreciated.
Yeah. So then you felt the chemistry, sexual chemistry, all those things. Was that immediately there?
No, it wasn't immediately there. It was kind of like, as we talked, like, I love mental stimulation. Like, if you are an intellectual, I will just be like, thank God. Mm-hmm. So our first date was about like 2-3 hours and we just hit it off. And then when we kissed, I was just like, finally a man that knows how to kiss.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So it kind of launched from there.
Yeah. Okay. So as you were managing all the chemistry and the attraction and all those things, what I'm looking at is when I look at that quiz result and I see so much around sex come up, that's the first thing that comes to my mind is, okay, without knowing this guy, without knowing the experience, what he is feeding off of in the relationship is the validation that comes from feeling sexually attractive, feeling that attraction from you. So when he's high off of that, if those were the only questions that resonated with you, that and the chase. And so as we look at how things progressed, and we look at the quiz results and we can see, okay, yeah, maybe that he was getting high off of all of the infatuation and things were exciting. But I also want to preface this with, just because that's where they're getting their validation doesn't mean they're not interested in you as a woman. That doesn't mean that they had no feelings beyond that. It means that's where he's getting his worth. And so,
wow.
Yeah. So it's like when I see an aroused, this is where I can't wait for everyone to be able to take the quiz, because then you can look at this guy and go, okay, wait a minute. If he's coming up, arouse me, chase me, what does that mean? It means that that's how he is fed. And so as you walk away from this conversation, you go, okay, when you think back, because this conversation will kind of resonate throughout the next several weeks or months, where things will come to you where you'll be like, oh, that was the prompt for me to feed him. What kind of arouse me gumball was it? Like, you'll see there's all kinds of things around sex and arousal and infatuation that are make everything more exciting. It makes every conversation more exciting. And so I think too, where the guy falls into that arouse me category, he might feel the most insecure when it comes to sex, because you had mentioned a friend of yours told him you hadn't had sex in a while. And he was like, oh my gosh, she's going to think, want this to be.
No, his friend.
Oh, his friend.
His friend told him that a person I don't know told him this.
That because you hadn't had sex in a while, that it was going to be this big, meaningful thing. And he felt pressure from that. Right.
Yeah. And I'm like, but did you ask me?
Yeah. He didn't even. So but do you see how that reveals the insecurity right there? Oh, if this has to be some meaningful thing, then it puts pressure on him to perform in a way that he may not feel he can live up to. Like, oh, if this has to be a big, meaningful thing, then I'm probably falling short of your expectations. So when you think of it that way, they reveal. So when it comes up arouse me player, it's like the player is the most insecure guy. Hollywood portrays him to be this guy that's in control, Matthew McConaughey, Mr. Big, all these guys that are famous players. They give us this impression that there's confidence there, but the confidence comes from your pursuit and your interest. And that's what's feeding him. So when he was that great guy in the beginning that was doing all the right things, it's because he was feeding off of that. It doesn't even, you probably think, well, I wasn't even doing anything that sexual. It doesn't matter. You were attracted to him and he was feeling that sensuality from you. So I can only go by what, the quiz results came through, but then Chase Me was that close second of, okay, I am turned on by the sexual energy and arouse me and make me feel, it's basically, he's like, make me feel validated. Yes. And so you made it real, right? So then, because you said things started to feel off, and then you called him out. So describe that again, how you called him out when things kind of shifted.
Yeah, I just basically noticed that it just felt weird. Like, now all of a sudden you have to work. This has never happened before. So let's just call it what it is. Like, maybe I should take a few steps back. And then he kind of wanted to immediately call me. And then we got on the phone, and that's when he kind of just started to anxiously word vomit, how he was feeling. Yes.
And so when he all of a sudden became unavailable on the days that he usually was available, that is where a guy is trying to gain control. See, you're strong. You call it like it is. And then you were like, well, if you want Tuesdays because he was like, let's get together on Tuesday. And then he said, well, Tuesdays are usually days I like to have to myself. And then you're like, but you always offered me Tuesdays. So what's the deal? Now, all of a sudden he's creating obstacles in
Mm-hmm.
and being able to see him, not because he's rejecting you, but because he needs to be in the position of control.
Mm-hmm.
So being the powerful woman you are, by
Thanks.
being so forward, it makes him too vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
So then he takes a step back. Oh, I'm not available, because I can tell you, I was the girl that would have said, okay, well then if you can't meet on Tuesday, then I mean, what day do you want to meet? Because that chemistry would seem like, how can somebody give that up? Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like it's tragic because they like you, they want to be with you, but if it makes him have to look at himself, he will back away and then he'll create obstacles. This is when they start to pull away or they ghost because they don't know what to do.
Yeah. It's
So,
just
yeah.
ridiculous, honestly. It's just him saying the Tuesday thing. And in my mind, I'm just thinking, well, all you had to do was say you're not free this week. All you had to do was say no, but you couldn't do that. And that's
Right.
something about you, not about me.
It's totally about him. And
Mm-hmm.
it still hurts though. I mean, all of these revelations are great, but it still hurts to have that connection and spend that time and then watch the guy that was all the things suddenly morph into something you don't even recognize. And then you're like, well, wait a minute, what happened? I don't understand.
Yeah. The was the biggest thing. I was just like, this just does not make sense. I don't understand. And I think that's the limbo I was stuck in, just like confusion. Like you word vomited to me, but also this does not make sense. It just doesn't make sense.
Yes. What did he
Yeah.
say when you finally were like, okay, you're pulling away from me, things seem weird, and he word vomited? Tell me what he was saying in that stream of consciousness.
Yeah. So I finally processed it to where I noticed like three themes. And like the biggest theme was that when I was going through like my flight trauma, it was like he said he couldn't be my rock. He didn't feel like he could be my rock. And he explained it as usually the girls that he's dating, if they're going through something, he'll rush in to help them. And he said he didn't feel that way. He felt anxiety surrounding that. He also stated that now that we've had sex a few times, his friend told him that that's a big deal to me. So therefore, he felt anxious around that. And then he also stated that I was going to be gone for a week and he's going to have like that time to himself, like to be with himself. And he felt like relieved that he's going to have that time. And then he kind of explained like relief is not what I meant. I'm sorry, that's not the word I should have used, but like I'm excited to have time to myself. And that's when I told him like, okay, so what are usually your days to yourself? And he mentioned Tuesdays. And I'm like, well, why would you do that to yourself? You should always take time for yourself. So those are like some of the themes that I was able to pull out from his ramble. And once I started to like really acknowledge what he was saying, that's when I noticed like this is a you problem. You don't know how to be grounded or with yourself just yet. So go deal with that,
Yeah. Yeah. So what was your summary of him that you text me when I asked you?
I'm probably not going to remember exactly or verbatim what I said, but basically he didn't know what to do when he was met with a real woman.
Exactly. And look, this is the hardest thing to do as a strong woman, is to look at a guy you've had a great time with, that you see potential in, because the soft part of me wants to help all these guys too and say,
yeah.
I just think of all the guys who have had so many incredible women that they could have had relationships with, so many missed opportunities because of lack of confidence.
Yeah.
And if they could have just been a little more vulnerable and a little more open, they could have had such committed, wonderful companions for the rest of their lives, and it's tragic. Like, do you understand what you're gambling with, what you're what's slipping through your fingers right now? But the
and
fear,
that's what was mind blowing. I'm like, wow. Everyone, like we would go on dates and people would be like, oh my God, you're gorgeous. And they'll look at him like, she's gorgeous. Great job. And I'm like, right. I know, right? I did
yes. Yes. Yeah. Exactly. And so we want to, it's that I came up with this phrase years ago, filter like a freak, where you want to filter out these guys until you find somebody that challenges you, that doesn't back down, that even if you have a sassy remark, and everybody's going to find their different guy, right? But the guy that's meant for you isn't going to be scared. He's not going to be intimidated. He's not going to feel threatened.
Right.
And that was a weird experience. When I met Ian, he wasn't intimidated by me at all. And I can be mouthy, and if I'm annoyed at somebody, I can go on a rant. Like, I'm going to tell her, and I never really actually say it, but I have to do a practice run, and sometimes it's full of expletives, and I would just think, God, it's so bad. I'm so raunchy right now. And he's unfazed by it. It's just I can't scare him. I can't be, it doesn't matter what I'm doing. I can be closing $1 million deal. And he's just he just sees who I am. And so we're not going to meet guys that we're going to tell them how it's going to be. When you meet a real man, he's going to be like, why are you telling me how it's going to be? What is this? And then you're going to be like, oh, I've met my match. I have an adult in front of me. And now I can have the conversation I've always wanted to have. Now I can just relax and really be myself. And so, sorry, my dogs are
no problem.
Barking, but that's where you'll know. And that's where I want to encourage people to just liberate themselves to be who you are. And you're so courageous to just walk away at this point, because he's not ready. Just like you said.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it. I do.
Yeah. And I know it's hard.
Confusing.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't think it's hard. I think it was just, this is I feel like we have similar personalities where you're just like, what just happened? Why is this happening? This doesn't make any sense. Have you met me?
Yes.
And I just I couldn't fathom it at first, but I was just like, you know what? If you're not ready, you're not ready. And I'm not going to make you ready. I'm just going to go meet someone who is ready.
Exactly. And if we all had that mentality, it's a perfect note to end on. If we all had that mentality, and we saw, instead of feeling rejected, we could see, wow, you're rejecting yourself. The chemistry is undeniable. The attraction's there. The interest is there. The excuses are lame. He's not ready. Yes. He couldn't handle it. And that being the case, you can walk away knowing you weren't rejected. This isn't the right person for you. He rejected himself. He got afraid of what he couldn't do in the relationship. And so it does still hurt, though. And that's where I want all of my girls, including you, I want you to still care for yourself, because even though that's the case, it's still God, this sucks. This hurts, it's just, even somebody who ghosts you after 1 or 2 dates, it's still a crappy feeling. And I want everyone to acknowledge that. So we don't feel like we're supposed to just feel, okay, I'm supposed to just be able to blow that off. We are allowed some emotional liberty there, because it's tough. And, a month and a half, it's not a long time, but then it kind of is
enough time.
Yeah. That's a lot of conversations. It's a lot of interactions and text messages. And I think even though texting can seem impersonal, there's actually been studies around texting where it actually is equal to real dialogue. We are actually having real dialogue. It's not, just because it's a text, it's still there. And so I think we're communicating maybe more than we ever have because of texting. And so relationships are advancing a little more quickly. They get deeper faster because people will say more through a text. And so emotional investment feels greater. And so therefore we feel that pain. But I want to use this concept as a way to help us process. Okay, you were getting your validation through our chemistry and me being attracted to you and in me chasing you and trying to, you wanted me to offer another day other than Tuesday. And, you wanted me to say, well, I didn't need you to make sex a big deal and try to make him feel better, because he was saying, well, I don't know. I felt anxiety. I felt like I wasn't going to be enough for you sexually. I felt like, you needed too much time. Those were all his insecurities speaking.
Yeah.
And so when you can translate that to, I wasn't giving you the validation and the transaction you were looking for, because a meaningful connection cannot be transactional at all. It has to be transformational. It's give and take. It's contribution, right? It's being seen and heard and allowing you're free. It's liberation versus constriction or rules or feeling like you have to do things in a certain way. So I'm proud of you, girl, for being so courageous and saying, yeah, I got it. So tell me how you ended it. Cause I want to make sure we capture that of what you said and how you wrapped it up as you listened to his stream of consciousness and all those excuses. What was your response to him?
Basically, once I had an aha moment when he basically was explaining, like, typically I have these times to myself to do things for myself. And that's when I realized, like, oh, this has nothing to do with me. You are basically emptying your cup when you should be giving from the overflow. Like, if you're not filling yourself up so much so that you're overflowing, then how can you possibly be interacting with me on this type of level? And once I realized, I'm like, this is a you thing. I empathize with it, but you're not ready, is what I said. And I might need to, converse with you because I am in a state of shock later on once I sift through things. But if not, then thank you for telling me how you felt. It is what it is, but you're not ready.
Exactly. Oh, I love it. It's just, I wish all of us could have that mentality and say, okay, you're not ready. And that's it. And it doesn't have to mean we have to change or do anything different. You can literally continue on exactly the way you have been, being who you are, and you don't have to change one thing about yourself. And it's just so critical. I mean, so many of us girls, we analyze these situations and we think,
we internalize.
Yes. What did I do wrong? Or we take to heart things that they said. And look, the next guy, you could have been talking to a different guy that had panic attacks before and said, oh my gosh, I totally know exactly how you feel. And here's what I did, or are you okay? Or did you try this? And that guy would have, you know what I mean?
Kicker. I didn't tell you this part, but there was a British guy at the airport who I
British guy enters
numbers. Yeah, we exchanged numbers because we were both dealing with the flight issues. And he went to his gate, which was maybe 20 gates down. And I texted him. I was like, he told me to text when I boarded the flight. And I texted him actually, I didn't board. I deboarded because I had a panic attack. This man comes back to sit with me and crack jokes to make me feel better. And I was just see, and then we're still in contact. He's still a great friend of mine. You invited me overseas. So I'm just see, there are people out there that will connect with you on the level that you need to be connecting with.
Exactly. And he gets you. It's and someone, even if that maybe is not a romantic connection, it just shows, oh, this is what it looks like when someone's synced with me, when someone gets me. Where this other guy, you had to explain. It's it became an effort to even figure out what the problem was. Yeah. And then his problem was to blame instead of, and you didn't even accept the blame. You were just oh, then yeah, you're not ready. You called him out immediately.
Exactly.
Which then put him on the floating raft in the ocean of I don't know, I'm naked out here and you're just sitting there staring at me what are you doing to me? I don't know. I can't deal with it. It's just too much reality. It's too much.
Naked and afraid.
He's naked and afraid. You made him naked and afraid. I mean, look, I have family members. I can't even listen to this podcast. I'll be like, oh, so-and-so never listens to podcasts. And people tell me, oh, Melissa, your podcast is you got to be strong to hear those words and be able to take this concept in. And because, we're all guilty of it a little bit in circumstances where we're making things more transactional than, connecting versus focusing on the transactional piece. So yeah, it's this tribe of women and a small group of men, probably, we are warriors and we're willing to take it on. We're willing to look at the hard stuff and we're willing to make the changes and we're willing to do the work on ourselves. And so, yeah, you just got to meet your match, meet the person that is your equal. And then it's a whole different ballgame. Meeting my equal was just mind-boggling to me. I still have moments where I think, wow, I never thought I would be having this kind of conversation. I never thought it could ever be this kind of depth or understanding or love or, compassion. I mean, it's just, it's amazing. It's just, exceeded all of my expectations. And I want that for every single girl that's listening to this. So, but it starts with exactly what you did, moving forward, not settling, not chasing somebody who doesn't get you and knowing there's something better for you.
Yes, I agree.
Yay. Oh, I'm so glad you reached out, Keyara. This has been so fun to chat with you. Thank you for having the courage to come on and share your story. And I'm sure you'll see all the comments and social media, and make sure you join the private Facebook group if you want to interact with the girls there that hear your story.
Yeah,
so
for sure. Definitely.
All right. Thank you so much again. It was such a pleasure.
Same. You have a good one.
Thank you so much for listening. If you want more information or to schedule a private coaching session, or better yet, to join the next Back to You Academy, go to gumballlove.com. If you loved this podcast, I would love for you to share it with your friends. And if you really loved it, a 5-star review is the best compliment you can give. Remember, you are enough, you are right where you should be, and the only thing you have to do is keep going. I'll leave you with my favorite quote by Henry David Thoreau. Go confidently in the direction of your dreams and live the life you have imagined. Until next time, I'll see you soon.